So today we are going to learn about a very important organ of our body, that is a heart. As you could see over here, a heart is triangular in shape. It is of the size of a fist, a closed fist. Now, as it is a very delicate organ, it is protected by a cage-like structure known as rib cage. Rib cage is a cage-like structure that protects our heart and lungs. Heart is inside the rib cage. Now, if you look at the heart, it is made up of total 4 chambers, 2 upper, 2 lower. 2 upper chambers are known as auricles, 2 lower ones are known as ventricles. Now, heart is divided into 2 parts, left hand side and the right hand side. You could very well see this is my left hand and this is the right hand. So this side is known as the left hand side of the heart, whereas this is the right hand side of the heart. Now you have left auricle and left ventricle, which is towards the left hand side of the heart. You have right auricle and right ventricle towards the right hand side of the heart. Both the sides, left hand side and right hand side, are divided by a layer known as septum. The entire heart, if you see the entire heart, it is covered by a membrane known as pericardium. This pericardium is a double-walled membrane. In between the pericardium, this you could see the double-walled membrane, and in between there is a fluid known as the pericardial fluid. Now, when we are talking about the left and the right hand side of the heart, the left hand side contains pure blood, right hand side contains impure blood. When I talk about pure blood, I am talking about the blood which is oxygenated. I am talking about the blood which is rich in oxygen. When I talk about impure blood, I am talking about the blue blood, the blood which is deoxygenated, the blood which is rich in carbon dioxide. As we all know, the red blood, when we are talking about the red blood, it is the blood that we get from the lungs. You all know you inhale oxygen. Oxygen goes to your lungs, and from lungs it is diffused in the blood. Now, the blood, when it is rich in oxygen, we call it oxygenated blood or the red blood or the pure blood. From lungs, this pure blood is carried to your left auricle. Right? This is the left auricle where the blood is poured from the lungs by pulmonary vein. So whatever is related to lungs is pulmonary, right? So pulmonary vein carries the blood and pours it into the left auricle. From left auricle, the blood is poured into the left ventricle. Now, for a while, you just see this. In which the left auricle and left ventricle both are connected with the help of a valve. There is a valve over here. You could see this valve. Now look over here. This is the valve which is in between left auricle and left ventricle, and it is known as bicuspid valve. You could see it is divided into 2 parts and the blood is poured like this. Whereas it allows the blood only to flow in one direction. The blood cannot come, once it reaches the left ventricle, it cannot come back to auricle at any case. So this is the bicuspid valve which is present in between the left auricle and the left ventricle. Now, your right auricle and right ventricle is again connected by a valve. You can see a valve over here. This is known as a tricuspid valve. You could look at it carefully. This valve is in between your right auricle and right ventricle, and it again allows the flow of blood only in one direction. Once the blood reaches the right ventricle, it cannot come back to right auricle at any case. So, both the auricles and ventricles are connected to each other. Once the blood from the lungs is poured to the left auricle, it goes to the left ventricle through the bicuspid valve, and this is the pure blood. This is the blood which is rich in oxygen. This is the blood which is oxygenated blood, and once it comes to the left ventricle, it goes to a biggest artery known as aorta. You could see a very big artery over here, the aorta. This aorta supplies the blood to all the parts of the body. Now, what exactly happens over here? You could see you have two parts of the body. One is upper part and the another one is lower part. Whereas upper part you could call it as a superior part of your body or the inferior part of the body, right? Superior means top part or inferior means lower part. In the same way, you have two vena cavas. This is your superior vena cava and you have an inferior vena cava as well. Now superior vena cava collects the blood from the top part of the body and inferior vena cava collects the blood from the lower part of the body. Here I am talking about the blood which is impure. Here I am talking about the blood which is blue in color. I am talking about the blood which is rich in carbon dioxide. The superior vena cava collects the impure blood or the blue blood or the blood which is rich in carbon dioxide from the top part of the body, and inferior vena cava collects the blood from the lower part of the body. Both vena cavas, the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava, pour the blood into the right atrium. This is your right auricle or right atrium. From right auricle, the blood is poured into the right ventricle through this valve known as tricuspid valve. Once it reaches the right ventricle, this is dirty blood or this is impure blood or the blood which is rich in carbon dioxide. So this blood needs to be purified. From this blood we need to remove the carbon dioxide, and from the right ventricle it goes to the lungs by a pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery this is your pulmonary artery. It takes the blood from the right ventricle to the lungs for purification, and this cycle goes on and on. Now when we are talking about, I told you about two things, arteries and veins, right? Arteries, as you know, it is red in color. You could see over here as well. The biggest artery is the aorta. This is the biggest artery which is red in color. The aorta, it carries arteries. How will you remember? Arteries carry the blood away from the heart. If you see both arteries and away, both begins with the letter A. Are you getting me? The arteries and away both begins with the letter A. So arteries carry the blood away from the heart. Now this is the biggest artery, aorta, which once the blood is pumped from the left ventricle, it goes to the aorta, and aorta takes the blood to all the parts of your body. Clear? Now, when I am talking about artery, I am talking about the pure blood, I am talking about the oxygenated blood, I am talking about the blood which is rich in oxygen, and this blood is carried by arteries to each and every part of the body. When it is carried to the artery, imagine when the heart pumps, when pumping is what, you hear some lub-dub sound in the heart. So this is the contraction and relaxation, By continuous contraction and relaxation, heart creates this lub-dub sounds. And when it contracts, imagine the pressure by which the blood moves in the artery. So when the moment the blood gushes out in the artery, it moves with tremendous pressure. So the wall of the artery is very thick in order to resist the pressure. The wall of the artery is very thick in order to sustain the pressure of the heart, pressure of the blood, I would say rather. Now, this blood, when it goes over here, when it is circulated to each and every part of your body, these arteries, they are thick-walled and they are present deep inside your body. There is no valve in the artery. They are present deep inside your body. You cannot see the arteries at all. When we talk about veins, I told you about superior and inferior vena cava. Veins collect the blood from all the parts of the body and then they pour it into the right auricle. From right auricle, it goes to the right ventricle. This is the dirty blood, impure blood. From right ventricle, it is taken to the lungs by your pulmonary artery for purification. Now, these veins, there is not much of pressure in these veins because they are collecting the blood. It is collected from the top part of the body. This inferior vena cava is collecting the blood from the lower part of the body. Since it is collecting the blood, not much of pressure is there in the vein. The walls of the vein is very thin, and these veins are present on the surface of the body. Now you can very well see over here. You can see your own veins in your wrist carrying the blue blood, which is deoxygenated blood. The wall of the vein is very thin. There are wells in the vein. A series of wells are there in the vein to prevent the backflow of the blood. These veins are collecting the blood from the top part of the body and the lower part of the body, pouring it into the right atrium. From right atrium, it pours into the right ventricle. From right ventricle, the blood is taken to your lungs for purification. Now, when we are talking about blood, what is blood all about? It has got three things in it: RBC, WBC and platelets. How is blood made? If you look at this bone, this is one of the joints of your body. Now, over here, if you see the bone, it looks hard from outside, but if you see inside, it's hollow. You could very well see the bone is hollow from inside. It's very hard from out, but hollow from inside. And it is filled with a spongy thing known as bone marrow. So it is this bone marrow that makes the blood. It is this bone marrow that makes the blood cells. You could say RBC, WBC and platelets. Your blood has got three things in it. That is RBC, WBC and platelets. When I'm talking about RBC, RBC is also known as red blood cells. It is also known as erythrocytes. It is biconcave in shape. It has no nucleus. No nucleus means what? It is not going to reproduce. There is no reproduction in RBCs. It carries hemoglobin, and that's the reason the blood is red in color. The blood gets red color due to hemoglobin. It carries oxygen and carbon dioxide as well. These RBCs, they have a very short lifespan. They live just for 120 days and after that they die. All the RBCs dies and your blood has to make new RBCs. They are made in the bone marrow. As I told you, the bone has got a spongy thing inside. Known as bone marrow. They are destroyed in the spleen. So this is all about your RBC. Now let's come down to WBC. When we are talking about WBC, these are white blood cells, also known as leukocytes, whereas leukos means white. They are derived from a multipotent cell in the bone marrow. Hematopoietic stem cell, and their lifespan is 3 to 4 days. They just live for 3 to 4 days and then their life is over. Then your bone marrow produces new WBC. Normally 700 WBCs are there per microliter of blood. Now, if the count increases, if WBC increases in your body, a person may land in the disease known as leukocytosis, whereas that particular person could have fever, weakness, dizziness, tingling sensation in the arms or pain in the arms. And in case the WBC decreases in the body of a person, then he or she might get a disease known as leukopenia, which may even lead to cancer, and the symptoms could be high fever, he may feel chill, there could be a lot of sweating. So when we are talking about WBC as a whole, WBCs are the cells that fight with infections. They are the army of your body. They fight with your bacterial infection. If you get any viral infection, any viral fever, WBCs, the count increases and they start fighting with the germs, with the invading germs in your body. Next comes the platelets, which help in clotting the blood. So I'm sure you are aware of RBC, WBC and platelets. WBC plays a great role in our body because these white blood cells are like an army in your body. Now you could even see the anterior view of your heart. This is the posterior view, and you could even draw the diagram of the heart showing the blood and the color as well. The left hand side you have to give a red color, whereas right hand side you have to completely make it blue in color. I'm sure you are aware of the arteries, the difference between the arteries and veins, as arteries carry red blood, and you could see over here veins carry blue blood. Arteries have thick wall, veins have thin wall. There are no wells in the artery, but there are wells in the veins. Arteries are on the surface of the body. I'm so sorry. Arteries are deep inside your body and veins are at the surface.